I'm Larry Speck. I would be lead designer on the project, and
I'm Ricardo Munoz. I'd be a designer working with Larry.
so we would really be the team that would be doing the design on the project. But unfortunately, we're not in Dallas. I'm actually in Paris today.
Yeah, and I'm actually in Italy, and I planned this long time ago, and we're really bummed that we can't be here today.
Yeah, but we're going to try to talk to you about some of the questions you asked that kind of would be in our wheelhouse. And then we've been working really closely with the team on a little design exercise and some things to show you. And they can carry the water really well for us. We're confident about that. We're going to really be talking about questions 5, 6, and 7 on the list that you gave us. So that question number 5 had to do with our familiarity with Texas modern architecture and what we might think about that. So there is a book, quite recent, called Texas Made, Texas Modern. I think it's the best book, one of the few books on Texas modern architecture. I'm proud to say that we at Page have 12 pages in this book that are devoted to our work, and that's probably more than any other firm or architects that are in the book. So clearly, we're into this. Also, when Helen Thompson, who wrote the book, she's been writing on Texas architecture for decades. When she kind of finished up the book, she said, Larry, I'd like you to read it over. And I read it over and we had some talks about it. And then she said, well, would you write the introduction for the book? So I did end up writing the introduction for this book, Texas Made, Texas Modern. So this is something we know about. And we know about in part because Ricardo and I are both like really, really Texans. Mm-hmm. I'm 5th generation Texan. And I've been teaching and working in Texas and love the state, love the culture here.
Yeah, so I've lived in Texas my whole life, and as Larry mentioned, we're both teachers, and we have been practicing and teaching in Texas for a very long time.
So when you teach and practice both, maybe you think a little deeper about what are the ideas behind what you're doing. And this notion of Texas modern architecture is an idea, and it's one that both Ricardo and I have been interested in. Your question number 6 had to do with, well, how might this Texas modern architecture apply to a commercial office building? What are the kind of tenets or bases of Texas modern architecture that might be relevant to a corporate office environment? So I think overall, there is this pervasive idea in Texas modern architecture about making things that are authentic, making things that are not frou-frou or gimmicky or trendy, but are a little deeper and a little more foundational to what architecture is. And that's actually what modern architecture in a broader sense was trying to do, was find what are the roots, what are the fundamental things about architecture. And I think Texas Modern has begun to say, well, in the Texas context, what are the foundations or the roots or the fundamentals of architecture here? And in a way, this is, if you were using a golf analogy, it might be sort of like Harvey Pinnock, who said, right, take dead aim. It's just cut to the chase, get to the fundamentals, take dead aim. And that's really, I think, the design ethic in Texas modern architecture. And that expresses itself in several ways. One thing, obviously, that is very powerful in Texas is the climate. We live in a really hot climate. We have this incredible, bright, warm Texas sun. And so the climate becomes, architecture interacts very strongly with climate. It becomes a kind of foundational parameter. So dealing with the heat, dealing with the sun, and that in the massing of the building, how it's related to the land and the topography, dealing with where the windows are, dealing with sun shading on the windows, just dealing with the sun and with the climate is a very, very important aspect of Texas modern architecture.
So question number 7 asks about a blending of sports and education and hospitality. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on. We're really good at combining those elements. And it's something that we see across all market sectors and all types of buildings, creating these mixed-use environments. Creating an office space perhaps that has places for chance encounters, creating environments that allow you to look out into the landscape. And I think we really have some really good opportunities there.
And I think there's a kind of synergy and dynamism that comes with mixed use. We, in our practice, do it very much on an urban scale of mixing housing and office and retail and making these lively, rich urban environments. But it also happens on the scale of an individual building that nobody wants these days in an office environment to just be heads down in front of that screen all the time. There need to be places to hang out and places to have social interaction, make friends, and then in a building like yours, bring in the public, and there's an energizing that can come of that we're excited about in your building program.
The last thing that we're going to touch upon is, we're really bummed that we can't be here. We love meeting you and collaborating and really working towards creating an exciting project with you, and we really hope you select us for this project. But as sort of a preview of the way that we work is through an activity, a sort of a game that our team has developed, and we'll get into that in a second. But it's really to hear your thoughts and your aspirations and what how we can help create your vision for this project.
So this is an exercise that we've used several times before. Super effective for you giving us really good feedback to ideas or concepts or directions. But in the end, it is this kind of team effort, you, us, all of us together, figuring out our goals and our aspirations and how that translates into a really magnificent building in the end.